The movie begins with a couple, Kyle Breyer and Tori Breyer, enjoying a quiet moment at home when an explosion outside suddenly interrupts them. The film highlights the love and care Brandon, their son, receives from his parents, especially showing the strong bond between the boy and his mother. In the next scene, 12 years have passed. Now, we see Tori searching for Brandon, who is hiding in the barn and responding to a whistle. This shows how close the mother and son are. Brandon is very smart for his age, admired by his teachers for his high IQ and knowledge. However, most of his classmates don't like him and often tease him. Caitlin, who looks up to Brandon, tells him not to worry about the bullies. During school, Brandon spends his time drawing a strange symbol that seems to represent his name. That night, while Brandon is sleeping, something strange happens in the barn. Meanwhile, the boy starts shaking uncontrollably in his sleep, as if possessed. Suddenly, he wakes up, jumps out of bed, and leaps out the window. Tori, who is busy painting, senses something is wrong. She begins looking for Brandon and finds him in the barn, acting strangely. He is speaking in an unclear language with a shaky voice, trying to open a wooden door in the floor as if being pulled toward it. Soon, he snaps out of it and regains his normal self. The very next day, Brandon goes to mow the lawn, where the mower starts malfunctioning. While restarting the mower, Brandon accidentally throws away the mower hundreds of feet behind him. Surprised, Brandon goes near the mower and tries to test his superpower by stopping the mower cutter with his bare hand. By doing so, he ends up destroying the mower without getting a single cut on his hand. In the next scene, we see the Breyer family celebrating his birthday in a local restaurant, accompanied by Kyle's close friend Noah and his wife Marilee. Both of them treat Brandon as their child and praise him for scoring good marks in his exam. Meanwhile, Noah surprises everyone by gifting a 12-year-old Brandon a hunting rifle. Kyle outrightly rejects the gift. To everyone's shock, Brandon reacts in a revolting manner while protesting the opinion of his father. Kyle immediately tells Brandon and Tori to move out of the place while trying to pull Brandon with his arm, but he fails to move his arm even by an inch. Tori, with a glaring look, tells Brandon to get into his senses and the family quickly storms out of the restaurant. But things seem to be at ease once Tori and Kyle discuss the matter at home. The next day, while getting ready for a family outing, Kyle notices that Brandon is biting a fork. Meanwhile, while cleaning Brandon's room, Tori finds out weird pictures of human body parts among the pages of a porn magazine inside Brandon's sleep mattress. That day, they spend the night in a camp in the woods. During midnight, Tori is awakened by the absence of Brandon next to her and starts looking out for him. Meanwhile, Brandon is at Caitlin's house, trying to scare her with paranormal acts. Brandon gets back to the camp spot just in time. Next, we see during one of the nights, Kyle's sleep is disturbed by rattling chicken noise. He gets up and immediately goes to check what the matter is. By then, all the chickens were dead. Kyle immediately wakes Tori and brings her to see the horrific event. Tori and Kyle argue over the event by taking sides. Tori suggests it was the wolf, but Kyle tells her it was Brandon. However, Tori does not pay heed to his reasoning. Brandon's abuse of power and evil intentions starts to come out in the open. For instance, while playing a trust game, Caitlin lets him fall, saying he is a pervert. Brandon crushes her hand without thinking of the consequences. Caitlin's mom, Erica, asks the local sheriff and the principal to arrest Brandon, instead of just suspending him. Tori and Erica get into a heated argument, and again Tori stands for Brandon. Tori and Kyle discuss what's happening around them, and both start to agree that things are not normal around Brandon. He has not bled or bruised once in his life, and now he has started to hurt people. During the night, a red light illuminates the side of the barn, which is visible to Tori directly through the window. She immediately runs to the barn and notices that Brandon is floating in the air just above the open floor door while reciting some words repeatedly. Tori runs towards Brandon, but he falls into a cubicle structure and gets a cut on his hand from a piece of iron mounted on one side of the machine, which seems to be some kind of spaceship. Brandon gets back to his senses and asks his mother who he is. Parallelly, we are shown some sort of flying machine which seems not to belong to this world. After seeing the machine, Brandon asks Tori where he came from, to which Tori responds he is just different from the other kids. She explains to Brandon that before he came into their lives, they prayed for a baby for a very long time, but failed to conceive one. But one night, they got blessed and Brandon arrived next to their home in that spaceship. Brandon gets disappointed with the new revelations. After a while, Brandon goes out reciting words in an unknown language, but this time consciously. Finally, he translates them, quoting "Take the world," and he starts shooting a laser out of his eyes. It seems like the power has awakened, and now the conquest will begin. Next, we see Erica, who is working in the restaurant during the closing hours, notices that someone has drawn signs all over the glass windows. She calls out if someone is messing with her. Soon the lights above her start flickering. When she looks up and starts noticing the lights carefully, a tube-like shatters on her face and a piece of glass pierces through her left eye. She starts breathing heavily and panics. She tries to hide in a storage room, but soon the door is shattered by an extremely powerful entity who is none other than Brandon, who is now wearing a red mask. Erica's death or whereabouts stays mysterious. Police couldn't find her body, but the sheriff soon notices the signs on the glass windows on the crime scene. Brandon has now started treating himself as superior to other beings on the planet. He has become someone who takes whatever he wants, and if someone wishes or tries to stop him from doing so, they soon meet their brutal end. We can see him justifying his actions while talking to his Marilee in a therapy session by saying sometimes things happen to people for a good reason. While Marilee tries to get into details, she unknowingly starts triggering Brandon at the end of the therapy session. Next, we see Brandon approaching Marilee in the night in a sneaky way, while Noah and Kyle are hanging out with their other friends. He warns Marilee that reporting to the sheriff won't be safe for her. Marilee tells him that reporting is a part of her job as a counselor in school, and also tells Brandon to go back to his mom and that they can talk in the morning. Brandon instead chooses to haunt and kill his aunt. Lucky for her, Noah reaches just in time. Brandon hides in the closet, but gets caught by Noah. He forces Brandon to get in the truck. But Brandon uses his laser power to throw him badly on the garage door. Noah gets into his car and tries to escape, but unfortunately, his car stops working and Brandon catches up to him on the road in the middle of the woods. He cannot believe his eyes when he sees Brandon is just floating in the air a few feet away from his car wearing the stained red mask. Brandon wastes no time to his power. He takes the car up in the air vertically, and then throws it straight down, jolting Uncle Noah's jaw and splitting it open on the steering wheel in a brutal manner. In just a few seconds, Noah gets unconscious. Brandon gazes at Noah in an intimidating manner, and again draws the same sign on the road, using Noah's blood in the car. At the same time, the screenplay goes back to Kyle and Tori, who could be seen panicking and rambling because they cannot find Brandon in their house. Brandon is suddenly back and tells them that he was playing soccer all this while. On being asked what happened to his clothes, he responds by saying his other classmates were pushing him and tripping him on the ground while laughing. This shows that although he has all the power of being called an evil Superman, he still tries hard to project a good image of himself. He quickly tries to close the topic by saying that he is tired and wants to sleep, but Kyle and Tori grow highly suspicious of him. Kyle even accepts that Brandon is an alien and that they should have done something about it a long time ago instead of just taking him as a blessing by God. While sleeping, Kyle gets flashbacks of the day when they found the spaceship in their backyard. Though he is in his present state of mind, he sees Tori holding a baby standing next to a fallen spaceship cubicle. She turns back at him and tells him joyfully that we tried for so long to have a baby, and they have a boy now. At present, Tori gets a call from Marilee from the hospital. Kyle and Tori reach the hospital and console Marilee. Marilee herself is in utter shock, yet she asks them how Brandon is and if he got back home okay, and ends up telling them that Brandon was actually at her place. Kyle and Tori get back home in the morning, where Brandon is having his breakfast as if nothing happened. They announce Noah's death, to which Brandon says, "Okay." She tries to make him understand the sudden non-existence of the human who is an important part of their family. Brandon simply responds, saying, "It feels like you want me to cry." This just shows how cold-hearted Brandon has become with the realization of his godly powers. Kyle reveals to him that they are aware he went to meet Marilee last night. They further ask him if he knows what happened to No, to which he responds he doesn't know what happened to Uncle No, and he will never hurt him since he loves him. During the intense discussion, Brandon ends up pushing Kyle on the wall, which shocks both of them. Kyle starts to get highly suspicious of Brandon's behavior and resorts to searching Brandon's room for some evidence while he takes a bath. He eventually finds the t-shirt which Brandon wore yesterday, and still has bloodstains of Noah. Kyle discusses with Tori what he just found. Instead of believing Kyle, Tori blames Kyle for making a tough situation for their 12-year-old kid. Meanwhile, the sheriff has understood that Caitlin's and Noah's mysterious cases are related. The next day, Kyle takes Brandon for a day trip to hunt in the woods. Meanwhile, the sheriff drops by their farmhouse and asks Tori what that signature means, though she says no, but soon recognizes the sign. Tori searches Brandon's room and finds the sketched notebook. Meanwhile, Kyle and Brandon take a walk inside the woods where Brandon notices the tracks left by some animal and starts taking a closer look without noticing that Kyle is aiming at him. Parallelly, Tori can see the same sign drawn all over the notebook that the sheriff just showed to her. She gets anxious and seems unable to believe what she sees in his notebook. On the other side, Kyle takes a shot with his rifle. Unfortunately, the bullet fails to penetrate Brandon's skin, and now Kyle seems to be in trouble for such an attempt. Kyle tries to run, but Brandon catches him and burns his head with his laser beams. Tori tries to reach Kyle, and in a panicked state of mind, she starts telling him the new findings just when the call connects. Once she completes her findings, Brandon responds from the other side. The very next moment, Tori is in trouble, being chased by Brandon inside the house at an incredible speed. She tries to call 911 but can't say anything before the call ends. Somehow, the police arrive at her home, but both officers end up brutally killed. Then, we hear the same whistle from the beginning of the movie. This time, instead of playing a game, Brandon is chasing his mom, trying to kill her. While running, Tori gets a bruise on her hand, which reminds her of when Brandon was sleepwalking and cut himself on the iron part of the spaceship kept in the barn. She starts running toward the barn while Brandon continues to chase her. She grabs a piece of the iron from the spaceship and calls out to her son, planning to kill him once he gets close. The whistle blows again, and Brandon comes toward her. She calms him down, removes his mask, and tries to remind him that there's still good inside him. She hugs him, but as she attempts to stab him from behind, he grabs her hand, lifts her into the sky, and drops her, letting her fall to her death. He stares into her eyes without showing any regret or sympathy. In the end, we see a plane flying toward Brandon, followed by news of a plane crash in the next scene. The destruction caused by an unknown powerful force spreads across the globe.